Good morning, dear respected Trai, dear beloved Sangha. Today is the 7th of August in the year 2023, and we are in the Stillwater Meditation Hall of Upper Hamlet in Plum Village, France. And this is the 4th day of our Wake Up Humanity Retreat with the title, Love in Action. I don't know if you're getting tired of hearing the word love. We've been hearing that word a lot in this retreat. Before coming up here, I was sitting in the back of the hall, enjoying the guided meditation. And I just felt so moved because all of my sisters and friends and monastic siblings, they have been offering me so much love, especially in the last couple of days, because they knew that I would be giving a Dharma talk. And they also know that this would be my first time sitting up here in Upper Hamlet. So whenever we do something for the first time, there's a little bit of fear, right? So they've been so supportive and just offering so much kindness and care, and I'm just feeling so grateful with all of their small actions of kindness. And I think that love is always there, all around us, and it's just a matter of letting down our guard and opening up ourselves to receive it. I think that is our practice. We don't need to create more love. It's already there. Everything we're seeking is there. It's just a matter of, are we ready to receive them, what we are being offered. And in this retreat, we are all practicing to cultivate more love, or love in action. That is the theme of the retreat, and the organizing team asked us to please make sure you address what that means. What does it mean, love in action? But I think everything we do in our daily life can be an action, an expression of love, if we can do them with mindfulness and care. So it's not so much what we do, but it's how we do them that determines whether our action is an action of love or not. And actually many of the sisters in Nghiem Hamlet, so I live in Nghiem Hamlet, maybe you have a chance to visit day after tomorrow. But we have been so surprised because we just finished the 3 weeks of summer retreat with about the same number of people. And usually when our friends arrive, we know that you come from all over the world, and you had busy life and you traveled very far and you're very tired. So we said, the first morning of sitting meditation, if you feel tired, it's okay, you can sleep in, you can rest. And usually not everybody shows up. So I think the meditation hall team just assumed not everybody will show up. But the very first morning, we were sitting there, and the meditation hall was completely full, and we have to keep putting out more mats and more cushions. That was the first time that we have seen something like that on the first day of a retreat. And we thought, and then we were saying, maybe they're just really excited on the first day. It's only the first day. Let's see the second day. But the second day, the same. Everybody was there. And also this morning, I make the confession, I didn't go to the sitting meditation this morning. I wanted to have extra sleep. But I heard the meditation hall was again completely full. So we are just all very impressed with your wholeheartedness of wanting to really practice. And before starting the retreat, we were, sisters are talking about how we can make this retreat inspiring for young people. And we said, oh, they're young people, so they like to have a lot of fun, they like to connect, they like music and dance, so we need to bring in all these elements. But after 3 days of practicing together, we were like, actually, everybody's really calm when they practice meditation. The energy of mindfulness is so strong. And we really see also in our Dharma sharing session that you're not here just to find new friends or to have fun together, but you are really here because you want to practice and you want to really understand yourself and to transform the suffering in ourselves and to be an instrument of peace for the world. So thank you so much for all of your beautiful aspiration, for being here and practicing together. Your presence also is a big support for all of us monastics. So thank you. And maybe I share a little bit more about sitting meditation. Yeah. And some of you feel like, we keep hearing about stillness, stopping our body and mind, slowing down. But it's not always so easy, right? Like, it's easy to sit still, maybe for some time, but how is the state of our mind? Can you really stop our mind from incessant internal speaking? Many of us tend to think a lot about the future, all the things we need to do. And maybe some of you have tendency to be caught in what happened in the past, in the sadness, regret, resentment. And if you're sitting and you feel restless, you cannot stop your thinking, it's totally okay. It's very, very normal. So don't expect all of your thinking to stop on day 1 or day 3 or by the end of the week. If it doesn't really change, that's also very normal. I also had the experience recently in the spring. We went out on a teaching tour. Our group went to the US and Canada for 6 weeks. And it was a wonderful, fun teaching trip, but also very, very busy. We went to so many different places. We organized many events. And at the end of the tour, I had an opportunity to spend some time with my family and friends in the States, in the Pacific Northwest. And I thought, okay, now I can let go of all of the things from the tour. I just allow myself to rest and take care of my body and mind, be lazy. And when I arrived at my aunt's house, the house is in the countryside and located in a beautiful nature. And I had all the conditions outside of myself to just sit back, chill, relax. But I noticed that I couldn't do it. Like, as soon as I sat down, I felt like, oh, I need to be doing something. I think there are like some emails I need to be replying to. And I couldn't allow myself to just sit and do nothing. And I found that really difficult, this transition coming from so-called the outside world, from big cities, running around doing things at a very quick pace, to a complete stop. And it's a little bit like a fan, when you have an electric fan, it's according to the law of inertia. Like, even if you stop the fan, the fan doesn't stop immediately, right? It takes some time for it needs time to slow down before it comes to a complete stop. And I could really experience that in myself, that I needed to take gradual steps in order for me to completely stop. So when I felt like I couldn't sit still, with ease. I needed to find another way to practice, and I needed some movement. So I went for walks. I just allowed myself to go for walks as much as I needed. And that was really helpful, just walking in the nature. And I didn't walk super slowly. I walked a little bit slower, maybe 20% slower than my normal pace. And I just walked, allowing all the beautiful trees of the Pacific Northwest to embrace me. And I could really feel all the sediments of my mind sinking down and my mind calming down. And then when I came back and I sat down, it was so much easier to just sit. But still, I still couldn't sit for like first 2 or 3 days. And I thought, oh, what happened to myself? I live in the monastery and I do this every day. I lost my ability to just sit in stillness. So then I thought, okay, maybe I just sit and read a book or find something pleasurable. Like I just sit on a rocking chair instead of sitting on a cushion and a mat. I find myself a nice cozy corner, and I made myself a cup of coffee. So I said, okay, I just sit, but with a cup of coffee. And that was very pleasant. And just practicing like that bit by bit, and then I could really come back to myself where I could regain my capacity to just sit really still and be with myself. Yeah. So don't worry if you feel like, oh, I'm not getting this, I don't know how to sit still. If you really feel the energy of restlessness, you might want to do more walking meditation rather than sitting. And even in your sitting meditation, it's not always, I don't want to use the word perfect because there's no such thing as a perfect sitting. But maybe you might experience some days you feel like, oh, I could do it. I could sit so still. I could really see my mind. And then a few days later, your mind might be like everywhere. And you might be feeling like, oh, what happened to my practice? I thought I could do this. But that's also totally okay. Don't worry. Because the practice, the spiritual practice, it's never straight line going upward. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and we're going to go up and down. And the more you go up, more you discover about yourself, there's something else that's waiting for you, that's going to challenge you to strengthen your spiritual power, and you might be going down. But just knowing that it's all part of the path, and then we are going in the right direction, and we don't need to worry, we don't need to fear. And maybe some of you are feeling just tired. Maybe you don't feel restless, but maybe you just feel so tired and so sleepy here. I don't know how many of you feel that way? Some? A lot? Okay. And that's also very, very normal. Don't worry, it's okay. When I first came to Plum Village, 2007, for my first retreat, many friends came and because they really wanted to see the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh. So they were so excited to go listen to his Dharma talks. But for me, every time I enter the meditation hall and I really tried to listen, after a few minutes I just fell asleep. And I think it's just my body was just so tired, exhausted, and our teacher's voice is so calming and gentle, like listening to bedtime story. But he also said, it's okay if you fall asleep because everything is going into your store consciousness. Nothing is lost. Yeah. So if you get sleepy in this Dharma talk, it's also okay. I've done it too. Yeah. But it would be helpful if you don't lie down, because when you see one person lie down, you see 2 people lie down, 3 people lie down, and before you know, it's going to turn into a total relaxation. So, yeah, please stay seated if you can. Yeah. Yeah. And so, Yeah, challenges of sitting meditation: restlessness. Second one, the other end of the spectrum is sleepiness and tiredness. You can't sit. And the third problem is that you can't even get out of your bed and go to sitting meditation or any other activity. Or maybe some of us are feeling a bit overwhelmed with the number of people here. Maybe we're not so used to being with 800 people in a tight space all the time. And maybe our first reaction is like, I just want to go back to my tent and find my safe space. And if you miss all the activities, such as the Dharma Talk, walking meditation, sitting meditation, it's okay. I'm not recommending that you miss them. We hope that you all participate in all the activities as much as you can in order for you to benefit from the collective energy. But also when you come, you are also contributing your energy to the collective, so a gift we can offer to others. But there are days we just don't feel like going. And I just want to say that it's okay. You don't need to feel guilty about it. For me, after coming to my first retreat, I stayed here for 2 weeks. And after going home, I felt so inspired. And I said, I'm going to practice morning meditation every day. I'm going to wake up a little bit early and continue my practice. But after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, I realized, no, I just want to sleep in. I couldn't continue. Maybe most of you are probably more diligent than I am, but I found it very difficult to wake up extra early to practice sitting for myself. But it's also okay, because as a practitioner of mindfulness, we don't discriminate the time between practice session and non-practice session. Because all day long, if you're creative, if you're an intelligent practitioner, we can actually turn any moment into a moment of practice. And in fact, all these spaces in between the activities, that's what really makes the difference in your quality of practice. We might think, okay, I just wake up, I run to the meditation hall, and then my meditation starts in the meditation hall. Or you might think, oh, I just do whatever, hang out with my friends. But when I go to the Dharma Talk, that's the time, the most important time to learn something. But that's actually, it's a wrong view. All the important things is happening in between each activity, the way we wake up, the way we walk to the meditation hall, how we interact with each other, the way we drink our cup of tea or cup of coffee after the Dharma Talk, the way we wait in line at the serving line. How is our mind? Are we using that time to really come back to our body, to relax our body? Are we observing our mind as we wait for 5 or 10 minutes to serve our food? All these little pockets of time, that's what really counts in your daily life, because I think most of you lead a very busy life, and you cannot make time like this to really do sitting meditation for half hour twice a day, or eat in mindfulness, in silence 3 times a day. But if we know how to come back to our breath, how to come back to our body and mind, when we are waiting for a bus, or when we are waiting to pay at the supermarket, when we are walking to school or work, all these moments, if we can turn them into the practice of mindfulness, and then we don't need to create extra time for us to practice. And I can say with confidence that that's really going to make a big difference in the quality of your practice, because this is something I learned from playing musical instruments. I've been playing the violin since I was 5. And I think we can all hear the difference between good sound and not so good sound, beginning student and advanced player. And the difference is really not how many correct notes that we hit, how tuned we are, the melody is, but it's actually the difference is when we become advanced player, we really take care of the space in between each note, that split second of transition. When we take care of that, and then we can really create beautiful sound, beautiful melody. So I also apply that principle as I practice the mindfulness in my daily life, to really take care of the transition time in between moments, to really pay attention to what's happening in my body and mind. Maybe we can listen to one sound of the bell and enjoy breathing together. So this is one concrete homework I'd like to offer to each one of you. Identify one chore, something very mundane that you have to do in your daily life, that when you think about it, you're like, oh, I don't want to do this. Maybe so for you, some of you, it could be washing dishes, maybe cleaning toilets, and something that you know you have to do, you cannot avoid it, but when you think about doing it, it's not something you feel excited about. So if you can identify that one thing, and if you can change your relationship with it, so we can say, okay, I'm going to make that into my moment of meditation practice. And you try doing it every day for maybe 1 week, and we can see how that affects all the other areas of your life. I do that with data entry on Excel. It's not something I thought I would be doing as a nun, but actually we do that kind of stuff a lot in the community. So it's really a moment for me to practice when I have to do that kind of work. And today's world, I think many of you, especially the young generation, you're very familiar with the word mindfulness, because there are so many apps and online courses, whatnot, out there. So I just want to know, how many of you use some kind of mindfulness app? Almost all of you. Okay. How many of you use Headspace? Oh, not so many. Okay. I thought that was the most popular one. Okay. Calm? Oh, not so many. Okay. Plum Village app. Yay! Are you being honest? Okay. How many of you learned about the practice through the Plum Village podcast, The Way Out is In? Okay. How many of you watch Plum Village YouTube channel on regular basis? No. How many of you have taken one of our online courses, online retreats? Online. Okay. Let's see. How many of you have read a book by our teacher? Oh, okay, good. Okay. Okay, I don't feel so old. I still like to read books. So, okay, good. Okay, so many of you are quite familiar with our practice, with our tradition, and our teachers' teaching. But today I wanted to go a little bit deeper into all of the practices that we're applying with the mindfulness of breathing, and also to share with you where they come from. Because some of us might know mindfulness as something that's kind of new and maybe trendy and cool because everybody else is doing, and it seems to be something that, as a civilized person, we should take part in. But I think many of you know this already. But the mindfulness, this concept, it's already. It dates back to 2,600 years to our original teacher, the Buddha, who lived in India. And many of our practices, whether sitting meditation, breathing, walking, eating, they have roots in one sutra that we study extensively here in Plum Village. And the sutra is called the Discourse on Full Awareness of Breathing, also known as Anapanasati Sutta. In many other retreats, we actually read this sutra in the morning after sitting meditation. But because the sutra is kind of long and the way it's written, it's quite dry, and we notice that people are just falling asleep and they're not really getting anything out of it. So we decided, okay, let's not read this sutra after sitting meditation. And so in this retreat, especially, we are selecting some inspiring excerpts from the books by our teacher, and some shorter sutras as well, like in New Hamlet. This morning we listened to Discourse on Love. And yeah, I wanted to just mention that if you're interested after the retreat to go deeper into all of our practices, to learn more, all of our Plum Village sutras, the sutras that are the basis of our practices, they are found in this book, and Chanting from the Heart. And this book was just revised recently, this year, thanks to our elder sister, Sister Chanduk, Sister Annabelle. And what's special about this new edition is that she went through the whole collection of sutras very meticulously to change all the personal pronouns into gender-neutral pronouns to make the sutras more inclusive. Yes. Yeah, so thank you, Sister Chanduk, for your loving work. So maybe I will. Time management is a challenge for me. It's okay. The problem is there's so much I like to share with you, and I have to do it in the set of time. So I'm rewording the ancient sutra in a more user-friendly phrases. So this is exactly what we just practiced before the talk, the guided meditation we practiced together for 10 minutes. The first one we want to do is, and this will be a review for many of us, But I just want to do this review before going deeper into learning how to take care of our strong emotions and so on. Because everything starts with our body. If we are not aware of our body, if we don't understand our body, it's very difficult to understand what happens in our mind and our emotions. So we always want to start with the body, and this is the wisdom of the Buddha. So first one, we always hear, breathing in, I know I'm breathing in, breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. So basically, what we're doing is to say hello to our breathing, because we all know that we all have the need to be seen, heard, recognized, acknowledged. That's something very, very important for our survival as human beings. And our breath it's the essence of our being, of our life. So first we need to recognize that, yes, I have a breath. I'm breathing in and out. And actually we are breathing in and out all the time, but we forget. So it's a reminder to say hello to our breathing. Yes, I'm still alive, I'm breathing. And then we often hear, breathing in, I follow my in-breath all the way from its beginning to the end. That is a way of cultivating concentration. But maybe for some of you, you heard this phrase so many times, and when we hear something over and over, it becomes kind of, it kind of loses its freshness or the meaning. So if you want to say, for me, the way I practice, the second exercise is I see it as a way to get to know my breath, to befriend my breath. And befriending means that there's no judgment. We don't judge. We don't say, oh, my breath is too shallow, it's too short. In the sutra, it says, breathing in a long breath, I know I'm breathing in a long breath. Breathing in a short breath, I know I am breathing in a short breath. And that's just an example. That is just to say, whether long or short, shallow, deep, whatever it is, warm, cold, no matter what it is, like we just accept it as it is, our breathing, and just observe. And this is the way to build trust and intimacy with our breathing. So one of the topics that come up in the retreat, I heard from different Dharma sharing facilitators as well, is that we're looking for intimacy. We feel lonely, we feel disconnected. But intimacy really starts with our intimacy with our own breathing. We need to get to know our breathing and be comfortable with it. We need to accept our breathing just as is. And then once we have developed this trust and intimacy with our breathing, and we can depend on our breathing, so we can allow our breathing to guide us back to our body, to really recognize that, yes, my body is here, and arrive in our body. And when we arrive in our body, this is our true home, our mobile home, that no matter where we are with our body. So we want to make it a comfortable, cozy home for ourselves. So then the third is to come home. And then so with this exercise, we really make our home a comfortable, safe space. And in order to do that, we need to let go of all of that tension we're holding in our body. And this is something that we will practice over and over and over for all of our lives. It's not something we just do it once and it's done. And our body and our mind is always changing every second, every day. And some days it's very easy to feel at home in our body. And then other days we don't feel so comfortable in our body. And that is also okay. It will never be the experience of meditation is never the same. So we can take a few minutes to breathe together. And we create different Dharma doors to practice meditation. And sometimes listening to music can really help us to calm down and really help us to come back to our body. So now I'd like to invite Sister Hyudu to offer this meditation in the form of a song. And we can all breathe together.
Breathing in a long breath, I know I am breathing in a long breath. Breathing out a long breath, I know I am breathing out a long breath. Breathing in a short breath, I know I am breathing in a short breath. Breathing out a short breath, I know I am breathing out a short breath. Breathing in, I'm aware of my whole body. Breathing out, I'm aware of my whole body. Breathing in, I calm my whole body. Breathing out, I calm my whole body.
Thank you for your practice. There's a saying in a Japanese Zen, I think it's from a tea master. whenever he arranges for the Japanese tea ceremony, which can be quite elaborate and can last for a very long time. And it looks as if they are searching for perfection, but the spirit of Zen is that, first of all, it will not go according to the plan or expectation. And the second is that it will not be like the last time. This experience will not be like the last time. And the third one is that, and yet everything is perfect as is. This is something I like to keep in my mind as I organize a retreat or embark on the project, or for my daily practice as well, to remember that nothing will go according to the plan, and if we have a prior experience of something, it will not be the same. It will never be the same as the last time. And yet, everything is perfect as is. And this is the spirit, different way that was shared yesterday in Brother Phapu's Dharma Talk. He talked about the wisdom of dwelling happily in the present moment. That means not to seek for happiness as an external condition, but being happy with whatever is there in this very moment, because that is the only moment that exists. And it's okay if there's still suffering in us, we can still allow ourselves to smile and experience peace, happiness, and joy. There will never be 100% happiness without any kind of suffering, because we are all aging. We are all going towards death one day. And then our body continues to change. There will always be some kind of physical pain. There will be illness. There will be broken relationships, our loved one dying. There will always be something. But we don't wait until we get rid of all these things in order to be happy, because then we will never be happy. So we can allow ourselves a taste of happiness and joy and peace, and no matter what is happening in the present moment. And that is cultivating joy. I think that's where Brother Phapu left off the Dharma Talk yesterday, so I'd like to pick it up from there. We often talk about cultivating joy and happiness in Plum Village. And again, this comes from the Buddha after the 4 exercises of mindful breathing. The 5th and 6th exercise of breathing, it's about cultivating joy and happiness. And maybe you might think, yeah, it's nice to be here in Plum Village when we're in this safe environment and we're with like-minded people. It's easy to forget about what's happening in the outside world and enjoy ourselves, have a lot of joy and happiness. But is it okay, like when there's so much suffering in the world outside? Maybe some of you feel guilty when we are enjoying yourself, just doing fun things, when we are aware that there's tremendous suffering everywhere in the world. But we need to remember that if we want to be an instrument of peace, a change maker, do something good for the world, we need to have enough stability, the strength, the peace in ourselves to do that. It's a little bit like a doctor who needs to help many patients. If he doesn't know how to take care of his own health, his body, he cannot help others. So we know that when we talk about cultivating joy, generating joy and happiness, it's not an act of selfishness. We're not just doing it to make ourselves be happy and forget about all the suffering, but we're doing it in order to strengthen our spiritual power so that we can help our loved ones and our society. Yeah, so please allow yourself to feel that joy. Please allow yourself to generate the joy from within. And we know that our body and mind, they are very closely interrelated. And I've heard some of you say that, oh, I feel so allergic here in Plum Village. You know, they always say, smile, smile, breathe, smile. Right? Well, we have to smile all the time. But I think this is something that's scientifically proven, that because our body and mind are so closely related, we don't need to wait for something joyful or something that makes us happy in order to smile. But actually, when we can smile, we can offer ourselves a smile, and then our body sends a signal to our mind to say, actually, everything's okay. So it's very tricky what comes first, right? Body or mind. And the way it was experimented by somebody, I think in Japan, is that they had a classroom full of students reading comics. And one group of students, they were told to hold the pencil like this while reading the comic. And the other group was told to hold the pencil like this. So it was forcing, we didn't say anything about, okay, you have to smile, but like their facial muscles were kind of smiling, even without them knowing that they were smiling. And after the experiment, they found out the students who are holding the pencil this way in their mouth found the comic book to be so much more entertaining. The ones who were holding the pencil this way, you know, looking kind of grumpy. Yeah. So again, you can experiment that for yourself if that really helps the state of your mind, the way our facial muscles are working in harmony with our mind. Yeah, and cultivating joy, do we need to seek for more joy outside of ourselves? Or can we cultivate that from within? And if we can do that, that's more reliable, because when we don't have to depend on external conditions to make ourselves happy, we know that we have the capacity to be okay, to take care of ourselves, to generate happiness and joy and peace, all these beautiful qualities, anywhere, anytime. So that is a safer way than to look for a piece of chocolate or going to listen to some music. And the one way we can do this is to notice that in our feelings, often there are three different feelings, right? There's pleasant feeling, things that makes us feel happy naturally, and there's unpleasant feelings, things that makes us feel discomfort, irritated, or in more extreme case, angry, sad, despair, and so on. But in fact, in most of our daily life, most of our feelings is somewhere in between. So it's not the black and white. You either have good feelings and bad feelings, right? Everything's on a spectrum, right? But we tend to notice the way our human brain is wired. We tend to notice the things that's making us feel miserable, the things that's going bad. That's part of our survival instinct. And when it's okay, because thanks to that instinct, we are still alive as human species. But we need to be aware that there's all this gray area between uncomfortable, negative feelings and pleasant, positive feelings. So as practitioner of mindfulness, we can practice what we call appropriate attention, and to notice, well, how am I feeling in this moment? And then we can see all the spectrum of the gray area, we can also call it indeterminate or neutral feeling. And if we change our perspective, we can change them into a moment of happiness and joy. So as an example, how many of you are feeling the joy of not wearing the mask right now? But you only noticed after I said it, right? Okay. Yeah, so this kind of thing we can do in our daily life. We call it the joy of non-toothache, when we are not having the toothache, where we forget. I mean, right now, I don't recognize it, but only when I'm having toothache, I just want that pain to go away. Yeah, so when we are all stuck in here with our masks, we were like, oh, I just want to take off my mask. But now we are not wearing masks. It's amazing. And this could not happen a year or two ago. And we are all here in the meditation hall together without masks. And it is something to celebrate. It's a condition of happiness. So we need to practice appropriate attention, bring our mind back to see what's going well. What am I missing out? Don't look for some very exciting moment, but it's all the other things that we think is actually nothing, but they are the foundation of our happiness and joy. One of our friends in our Dharma sharing shared very beautifully. On the arrival day, he sprained his ankle. So immediately you think, oh, you come to a retreat and you sprain your ankle and you cannot walk normally. It's kind of sad, frustrating. But immediately he noticed that everybody around him was offering so much kindness and care. And then after that, he realized, actually, spraining an ankle, it's also a kind of blessing. And it's, sometimes we think something is bad, but if we open up our heart, we can see all the beauty in so-called bad accidents or misfortunes. So cultivating joy and happiness through a daily life that offers us the foundation, the stability for us, and confidence also for us to dig deeper into all the other kinds of emotion that's in us, all kinds of strong emotions that maybe we might feel a little bit afraid to face. And it's really important, we emphasize this point so many times, that please cultivate joy and happiness first, because it's like if you don't have that spiritual strength, we can get sucked into our own energy of despair, anger, fear, all these emotions, and that can really take us over, and we can no longer practice. So if we want to practice to transform all these feelings, please do not skip the first 2 steps of taking care of the emotions. Right? And I actually don't like the word happiness. I think it's an overused word, and then often when we hear, you have to practice be happy, like yay, happy, happy. That's not what the happiness is. This is kind of a very calm, stable sense of well-being. In the Chinese character, it's much easier to understand. Sorry. I know many of us are Asian, so So this word, lac. When we say lac, also in Japanese language, it's not the happy, happy, exciting, or joy, joy. That's more joy. Joy has impetus. It gives us energy. It has a feeling of excitement to move us into something. But the happiness here, it's more stabilizing, sustaining, I it it's more a sense of ease, of being content. So, raku, ease. So we can think of it as ease. If you also don't feel connected to the word happiness. If you do, that's great, stick to happiness. But if you feel like I can't really resonate with that word happiness in this context, and we can change the word ease. Yeah. And then after that, we can go into the number 7 and number 8 of mindful breathing, which is to, now we have enough confidence in ourselves, enough stability to face what's there, to see what other kinds of emotions are there. So what are the emotions that we tend to push away or we tend to run away from? So the emotions that makes us feel uncomfortable, it's like anger, sadness, fear, loneliness, anxiety. Yeah, anxiety. Yeah, resentment. Yes. Yeah. Also, so there are many feelings that we know that they make us suffer, yet they are part of us as human beings. Because as a human being, we're endowed with the light and the dark side. To be a whole, I think the reason why we might sometimes feel like we don't feel whole, we don't feel complete, we don't feel enough, or something's missing. It might be, this is for something for you to contemplate. It could be that we are focusing too much on creating a persona for ourselves. We have an idea of who we think we should be as a good person, good daughter or son, or as a friend or a member of a society. And we're not fully ready to accept all the other side of ourselves. We might call it our shadow side or our darker side that we all have in common. But if we cannot recognize, accept, and be comfortable with this aspect, this other half of ourselves, we will never feel complete, because that side of ourselves is constantly seeking attention for us to recognize them. So one of the practices of going back to joy, I forgot to mention this, is letting go. Letting go can give rise to a feeling of joy. And there are so many things we can let go, starting with the idea of happiness. What can give us happiness? What can make us happy? And there are many things we can let go. So your persona, who you think you are, who you think you should be, all these boxes and labels, we can let go. And that is very liberating. That is a source of joy. We can let go of our views. We can let go of our resistance to change, that we know that we are constantly changing. Each day we are a new person, but we don't need to hold on to an old idea of ourselves. So that's something we can let go. That's just to list a few. So this is another homework. If you like to bring home something to do, an exercise, you can list, first of all, you can list all the conditions of happiness and joy. And if you want to do that as a daily exercise, it's nice to keep a gratitude journal. Like before going to bed, think of 3 things that you feel grateful for. Think of 3 things that made you happy today. And another list we can make is, what are the things that's not making me free that I can let go, or I need to let go? So list of joy and happiness, and another list of things to let go, including material possessions. When we have more space, when we feel like our living space is not so cluttered, we also feel more spacious in our mind. Maybe you, after this week of living in a tent and living very simple life, maybe you'll feel very ready to let go of everything once you go back to your apartment. Yeah. And we notice some of you practice that very well, because after every retreat, we find so many things in lost and found box. So I don't know if it's intentional letting go or like forgetfulness, but yeah, we see that. So if you want to let go, you can always let go. It's okay if you want to let go in the monastery and go home with a free suitcase. Yeah. So you feel free and light, body and mind. Can we listen to one more sound of the bell? Okay, now I can see you on this side of the hall. Sorry, I had my back towards you. So everything needs food to survive, right? And our body needs food to survive, but also our spirit needs food to survive. And as human beings, we cannot live without love. It's something that's given to us from the very beginning. And there are many other things that we need in order to survive. And to not only to survive, but to thrive. And we need to identify what are the elements that makes us feel happy and well, and what is making us unhappy. And just identify these causes and conditions. So if you're overwhelmed with feeling of anxiety, fear, anger, loneliness, and so on, we need to look deeper into it to see what is feeding these feelings. And there is the food. In Buddhism, we have a teaching on what we call 4 nutriments. We can roughly divide this kind of nutriment food that's sustaining our body and mind into 4 different categories. And the first one is edible food, what we consume through our food. And that is not only about what we eat, but it's also how we eat. We are not made of what we eat, but we are also made of how we eat. So even if we are consuming something very healthy, here we recommend vegan diet, plant-based diet that's more compassionate for the whole earth. But still, if we are not eating in a way that's cultivating compassion in our heart, if we are not being kind to ourselves while we are eating, we are not able to receive all the nutriments. So how we eat is also very, very important. How is the state of our mind when we're eating? So we don't need to be too fussy about things we eat. I know some things like, Coca-Cola, potato chips. Also, monastics enjoy eating that from time to time, right? And some of the friends are so shocked when they say, "You drink that? Monastic drink that?" And for me, it's coffee. I love coffee, so I drink coffee every day. And some friends are very surprised to see us drinking coffee. But it's more like when we are drinking coffee, in the moment, I feel very happy to be with myself, to enjoy the fragrance and taste of the coffee. And if we can also make that into a time of connecting with others, it's very, very nourishing. So we need to see a relationship to our food. And it's not what we are eating, but how we are eating. As monastics, we have a precept of not eating by ourselves. And that's really helpful because when we feel stressed or sad, it's very easy to reach out to a bar of chocolate, for example, and just binge eat the chocolate, right? I don't know. Do you have that experience? But thanks to the precept we have of not eating alone, when we eat, we always need to share with others. We have a practice of when you open something, we don't start eating it right away. When we open something, we always offer to the other people in the room first, and then we take our share. And this practice really helps us to have a healthy relationship with food. So that's something you might like to experiment in your life. Next time you're reaching out for a bar of chocolate or whatever it is, your comfort food, just pause for a moment and to see if there's anybody else around you and try to offer that to the other person. And then we can share. And this is one way the food can also nourish our joy. But if you're not careful, the food can nourish our seed of craving. And then when the seed of craving is watered, and then when that seed becomes bigger and bigger, when it grows in a consciousness, and it can turn into addiction. So this is something we really need to remember every time we ingest something. What is my relationship to this substance? And sorry, I see that I'm running out of time. And speaking of addiction, something we also want to check in with ourselves is that it's not always so obvious. We develop addictions because we're seeking comfort. And in a sense, if we are aware that we're addicted to something that's regulated by the law, such as certain drugs, alcohol, sex, it's almost easier to recognize, yes, I have this problem, I need to do something about it. Because an addiction is kind of short-term pleasure that slowly destroys our life, destroys our relationship, and causes great suffering. So if we have if you have issues with alcohol, drugs, yes, I think most people around us, they see it and they might help us to stop, to help us to heal and transform. But then there are other kinds of addiction that's more common in our daily life, and then they're not regulated by the law, so such as shopping, online shopping, and food, and it could just be social media, internet, to name a few. So all these things, they're not bad things, right? It's something we need in our daily life as part of our life. But if we are not careful, we can develop an unhealthy relationship, and it might be a little bit more difficult to identify that, to say to myself that, oh, I have a problem with this. So that's something we want to reflect, to see if we feel that, okay, I have seed of anger, irritation, craving, despair, all these things. How am I consuming? How is my relationship to the internet, for example? Or just consuming news and what's happening outside in the world. Because as a responsible citizen, we should be informed. We need to know what's going on in the world. But depending on how we are feeling in that moment, if you're feeling stable, strong, full of bodhicitta to help the world, you might see the news, and that might give rise to your compassion. So your compassion might become bigger, and that's a source of energy. But if you don't have enough joy and happiness, you're already feeling kind of depressed, and then you start to watch more and more news, it's only gonna water the seed of your despair, hopelessness, anger, sadness, and so on. And when those seeds become bigger in our consciousness, we cannot do anything. We just feel so depressed and hopeless, and we feel so stuck. So we need to see, when we are consuming things such as news, information, we need to educate ourselves, but which seeds are being watered? We need to really recognize which seeds are being watered. And there's also, I want to challenge you with another form of addiction. There are certain habits we cultivate that might seem like a very commendable action, such as meditation practice, studying, doing service, exercising, eating healthy, and so on. All these things, we might feel good, like, okay, I'm doing something good for myself, and I'm doing something good for the world. But if we don't really observe our mind, they can also be a form of addiction. And we know when it is causing problem in our life, when we start to have difficult relationship with our loved one, with our family and friends. We know something's not quite right. And meditation is not an escape from the difficulties of the world. We practice meditation. We learn the art of mindful living by coming to a retreat, not as a place where you can just escape and forget about the world, but so that we can bring this practice to build a better connection, deeper connection with outside world. And that's the only way, that's the only antidote to not feeling lonely and disconnected, to feel belonging in this world, is to have the courage to come back to ourselves, to really look inside and transform our suffering, so that when we come and when we touch the suffering of others and our society, we don't feel fear, we don't feel despair, we don't feel overwhelmed. But if we haven't done that work, inner work of understanding and accepting our own suffering, when we see the suffering of other people, we feel so scared, we just want to run away and hide ourselves and be a hermit on top of a mountain and cut ourselves off. And that is not the practice of engaged Buddhism that we are offering here in Plum Village. So, cultivating courage through our practice to be in touch with our suffering. That is very important. So if you feel like we're not doing it, if we feel like the meditation is a form of avoiding or escaping the suffering, and then we want to check again. We want to check to see how is my relationship to my practice. So I have only 5 minutes left. Anything? So I went over some of the elements of the 4 nutriments and the aspiration. So I talked about edible food, that's the first one. Second one is sense impression, how we consume social media, news, and so on, and how that's affecting our mind. And the third one is volition, our aspiration that gives us energy. What wakes us up in the morning? Why are we alive? What is the meaning of life? And that is also a great source of energy, just like love. And when I was a teenager in high school, when I was feeling depressed, I came across a book by a psychiatrist. His name is Viktor Frankl, The book is called The Man's Search for Meaning. How many of you have read that book? Many, yeah? Yeah, so this book really helped me to, at that time I didn't know anything about this practice of Buddhism, but that book, I can say that really saved my life to understand that even, so this, to give you a background, this doctor, Viktor Frankl, he was a Jewish doctor during the World War II, and he was in Auschwitz in a concentration camp for 3 years. And he survived the concentration camp. But during that time, in this extreme suffering, tremendous suffering of seeing inhumane act, people betraying each other, it was basically like a hell that he lived in. But he saw that some people made it out and they were still okay. And some people lost hope and they died in the concentration camp. And he noticed that it's those who managed to survive are the ones who had aspiration. They had hope. They knew, they have an idea of what they wanted to do. They knew that everything is impermanent. The war will end one day. And then after that, they knew they wanted to reconnect with their loved one. They had something that they are meant to do in their life. So that kept them alive, though not to lose the hope, no matter what was happening in their outside environment. So that is a very extreme example. But we also feel, some of us, that with the situation of the world today, what's happening to our planet, we might feel like there's not much hope. But volition, having the aspiration of wanting to do something, is a great source for us to keep going forward in order to live a fulfilling life. So we need to come back and discover or rediscover our volition. And some of you have shared also that you feel lost and you don't know what you want to do in your life. You don't know what your volition is. And that's also okay. That's why we are here to practice. And some of you maybe you've practiced, you tried this already, I don't know. But this is something I tried and failed one time when I was in university, when I felt lost. I was like 18 and I felt kind of lost in life. And somebody told me, just go sit under a tree and meditate and just stay there until you discover like what you want to do, right? I was like, okay, that sounds good. I'll do that. So I just sat there, you know. And of course, nothing happened. And I just felt so cold, and it was getting dark, and I felt so cold, and I was like, okay, I think I had enough of this. I'm just going to go home. So that was a failed attempt. So because you might see the statue of the Buddha sitting beautifully, you think, oh, if I just sit like the Buddha, I will discover my true nature. I will know what I want to do. But, you know, that's like, I don't know, maybe it will happen for you. And if it does, that's great. But I have a feeling 99% of the time, it will not happen. That's because you haven't done the preliminary work, right? Like, if you want to play the piano beautifully, you can just sit in front of the piano and look like a pianist, wear a nice dress, right? That's not going to help you. You must have done all the work behind the scene. That's the same with meditation. If you want to sit like the Buddha, you know, it doesn't just happen one day suddenly. You know, that's why all the moments of in-between moments, transition moments, all the little things we do with our act of mindfulness and love, and that's what it counts. And then maybe when you sit, something might come up. But we need to really know, just as the big enlightenment or awakening is made of small drops of awakening moment or enlightenment, if you like to use that word, the same with our volition. I mean, if you want to discover your big volition, your purpose of your life, what you want to do, how you want to spend the rest of your life, you know, this is made up of small, small volitions. And small volitions start with, again, coming back to our body. How is my body? Do you know what your body wants? If you don't feel at ease, if you don't feel comfortable, what can I do? Maybe I need to go use the bathroom. Maybe I'm hungry. Or maybe I'm dehydrated, I need water. Our body is telling us so many things every moment, but we are not there to listen. So the deep listening with ourselves really start with listening to our body and listening to the intelligence, the wisdom of our body. And if we can do that on a daily basis, if we can listen to our body and we can listen to our heart, to our emotions, how am I feeling? And if we can be there for that, and then slowly that will lead, all this micro volition will lead to a bigger volition. And you will see very clearly that what you're meant to do while you are on this planet. Because each one of us is a unique flower in the garden of humanity. Each one of us has something that we're meant to do and nobody else can do. And it doesn't have to be some big work, and you don't have to win the Nobel Peace Prize and all these things, right? That work could be just being there for a friend who's suffering, just sitting next to a friend, putting your hand on the lap of a friend. That's already a very noble task of love in action. And so all of this love in action, engagement, activism, start at the very, very small action, micro actions. And the fourth nutriment is consciousness. But I will leave that for the last Dharma talk. Sister True Dedication will be speaking more about the importance of collective consciousness, collective awakening. So you will hear more about the fourth nutriment. So thank you, dear friends, dear family, for your attention, for your deep listening this morning. And to end the talk, we'd like to offer a song. And this is a song, the Brother Bautang. Brother Bautang comes from Indonesia, and he has written this song to help us not to be afraid of our emotions, to remind us that we are so much more than our emotions. And if we know how to be with our emotions, how to take care of our emotions, we don't need to be afraid. Sorry, I'm being greedy. There's one poem I like to share with you while the band is setting up. This is a poem by a wonderful poet named Rumi. I think many of you know Rumi. And this is because we always talk about coming home to our body, arriving. I have arrived, I am home. This is one of our seals of a Plum Village. And Rumi, he kind of said the same thing in his poem. So this is Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweeps your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
So dear friends, we would like to offer from our heart. So we all not professional, but we just do our best. So please bear with us. So just be aware, we want to maintain our calm. If you feel so much joy, we can either do this. Or if you want to make noise, you can do this. But just be present and just enjoy the song with us. We don't know what will happen, but if you feel joyful, you just smile. If you feel you want to cry, you can cry. If you want to move your hand, you can move your hand as you like. And just be with us, being as a big family. Do not die just because of one emotion. When your life gets tough and your mind is rough, take a breath, let go and let love. You may be struggling, feeling lost, but life is a gift, worth leave it to the most. Don't let the darkness take the lead. Take a walk, feel the breeze. Breathe and walk peacefully on earth. Don't be fooled by your thoughts. Be still and see that happiness shines through the darkest cloud. Do not die just because of one emotion. Do not die, do not die, do not die. Life is a journey, a roller coaster to ride, but don't let the lows take away your highs. Take a break, my friend, be free on this earth. You are alive, see through the sky. You are love. Remember the ones who love and care. They're always there, willing to share. Breathe and walk peacefully on earth. Don't be fooled by your thoughts. Be still and see that happiness shines through the darkest cloud. Do not die just because of one emotion. Do not die, do not die, do not die. Take a walk,
Take a walk,
feel the ground,
feel the ground,
see the beauty,
see the beauty,
hear the sound.
hear the sound.
You are blessed with life, a gift to hold. Stand tall, you are not alone.
There are
Hey.
moments in the day, one word, one action throws you off right away. You wanna run and take some courage to stay, cause the branches of the tree might sway heavily in the stormy rain, calling you home to take care of this pain. It may feel tough, but don't give up, strive to regain peace of mind, stillness inside. Just go with the ebb and flow, the rising tide, and ride the wave of your emotions and style that is. Do not try to control it, no seize it or own it, but instead take it closer, embrace it and hold it. They're a rough diamond, then you'll be surprised what you find when kindness polishes them up, revealing treasures inside. Just be with your steps, I promise. It's gonna take care of the rest, and even it's a test, it'll bring out the best in you. Don't be fooled of just that you don't have to die just because of one emotion.
Breathe and walk peacefully on earth. Don't be fooled by your thoughts. Be still and see that happiness shines through the darkest cloud. Do not not die just because of one emotion. Breathe and walk peacefully on earth. Don't be fooled by your thoughts. Be still and see that happiness shines through the darkest cloud. Do not die just because of one emotion. Breathe and walk peacefully on earth. Don't be fooled by your thoughts. Be still and see that happiness shines through the darkest cloud. Do not die just because of one emotion. Do not die just because of one emotion. Because you are much more.